Let's go back to Shakespeare time for a moment. He had a magical way with words, didn't he? Remember the classic line from Romeo and Juliet? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Yeah, there's some linalool and some geraniol and some rose oxide plus about 300 other chemicals that make up the smell of a rose. And our nose picks these up, even though they may be emanated in parts per billion, very low concentrations. You know, it used to be thought that humans were not quite as capable at sniffing out things as dogs. And that goes back to Paul Broca, the famed anatomist of the 1800s, who looked at the human brain and found the olfactory bulb, which we have right here, and found that it was much smaller than in dogs, and concluded that therefore humans can distinguish smell as well as dogs. Well, it turns out that that may not be correct. Let me tell you the story of Mrs. Joy Milne, a British lady whose husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease when he was in his 40s. But long before he was diagnosed, she had noted an odor coming out of his body, a musky kind of odor. She didn't pay much attention to this, but after he was diagnosed, she joined a support group where there were Parkinson's patients present, and she smelled exactly the same fragrance. She mentioned this to physicians, and they were intrigued, and they decided to mount a little test. So they enlisted 6 Parkinson's patients, 6 controls. They wore a T-shirt and sweated into the T-shirt. And after that, the T-shirts were collected, they were coded, put into bags, and Mrs. Milne was asked to sniff out the Parkinson's patients. And believe it or not, she got 11 out of 12 right. That was absolutely astounding. The one that she got wrong, she had suggested that that was the shirt that had been worn by a Parkinson's patient, but it was actually by a control. But she was adamant, and amazingly, it turned out 8 months later, that gentleman was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So in fact, she was 100% accurate. She got 12 out of 12 right. What's the importance of this? Well, if researchers can isolate the compounds that are produced by Parkinson's patients, it could in fact lead to earlier diagnosis, because the diagnosis of Parkinson's is quite a difficult one. It's still done the same way that Parkinson himself originally made the diagnosis, by just observing a patient and looking at the signs and listening to the symptoms. Well, it would be much better if it could be diagnosed specifically by some chemical that is being produced in the Parkinson's body. And that may be possible in the future. So for now, it looks like, thanks to human scent, things are kind of coming up roses for Parkinson's disease. Geraniol.